The Battle of Hattin 1187. Why the Crusaders never recovered. Timeframe: July 4, 1187. Location: near Tiberias, in present-day Israel. Belligerents: Crusaders, led by King Guy of Lusignan, King of Jerusalem. Muslims, led by Salah ad-Din, Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria. The Crusader states before Hattin. Following the First Crusade 1096–1099, Crusaders established several Latin Christian states in the Levant. The most important was the Kingdom of Jerusalem. These states were constantly under pressure from Muslim forces attempting to reclaim territory. Rise of Saladin unified Egypt and Syria under his leadership. Declared jihad to recapture Jerusalem and other Crusader-held territories. Known for strategic patience and strong leadership. Causes of the battle: internal divisions among Crusaders. Political conflict between Guy of Lusignan, King of Jerusalem, and Raynald of Châtillon, a rogue noble. Raynald repeatedly attacked Muslim caravans, violating truces with Saladin. Saladin's provocation. In response to Raynald's attacks and the Crusaders' internal instability, Saladin launched a calculated campaign. He laid siege to Tiberias, drawing the Crusaders out of their stronghold at Sepphoris, into hostile terrain with little water. The battle itself. Tactical disadvantages for Crusaders. Crusaders marched through arid terrain in intense heat with limited water supplies. Saladin's forces harassed them constantly, draining their strength. Encirclement and defeat. Near the Horns of Hattin, Saladin's army surrounded the Crusaders. They were deprived of water and trapped by fire and arrow volleys. The Crusader army collapsed from thirst, heat, and exhaustion. Key losses. The True Cross, Christianity's most sacred relic, was captured. Most of the Crusader nobility was either killed or captured. Raynald was executed by Saladin personally. King Guy was captured but spared. Consequences of the battle. Fall of the Crusader Kingdom. After Hattin, Saladin rapidly captured Crusader cities, Acre, Jaffa, and finally Jerusalem on October 2, 1187. Only a few coastal strongholds remained under Crusader control. Moral and strategic collapse. Loss of manpower, leadership, and morale. Western Europe was shocked. Pope Gregory VIII called for the Third Crusade. Why the Crusaders never recovered. A. Loss of manpower and leadership. The knightly class was decimated. Survivors lacked the resources to rebuild defenses or wage counterattacks. Strategic position was irreparably weakened. After losing Jerusalem and major fortresses, Crusaders were confined to coastal enclaves. No access to inland routes, trade, or safe pilgrimage. C. Disunity and political infighting continued. Even after Hattin, rival factions among Crusaders hampered coordination. European reinforcements during the Third Crusade, led by Richard the Lionheart, failed to retake Jerusalem. D. Saladin's legacy and Muslim unity. Hattin marked a turning point in Muslim unification under Saladin. His reputation and authority discouraged fragmentation and empowered resistance against Crusaders. Long-term impact. The Third Crusade 1189–1192 failed to reverse the damage. Jerusalem remained under Muslim control except briefly during the Sixth Crusade. The Crusader states entered a permanent defensive mode until the final fall of Acre in 1291. Conclusion. The Battle of Hattin was not just a military defeat, it was a catastrophe that exposed the structural weaknesses of the Crusader states. Saladin's victory destroyed the Crusaders' military strength, shattered their political unity, and led to the loss of Jerusalem, a blow from which they never fully recovered. Despite future crusades, the Latin Christian presence in the Holy Land was permanently crippled. Would you like this in a presentation format or as a printable PDF summary? Certainly. Here's the continuation of the script, maintaining the tone and detail of the previous section. This portion will delve into the aftermath, the response in Europe, and the historical significance in more depth. The shockwave in Europe. A. The Pope's response. The news of the disaster at Hattin and the fall of Jerusalem in 1187 sent shockwaves through Christian Europe. Pope Gregory VIII issued the papal bull Audita Tremendi, calling for a new crusade. This appeal sparked a surge of religious fervor and mobilization. B. The Third Crusade 1189–1192. Led by three of Europe's most powerful monarchs. Richard I of England, Richard the Lionheart. Philip II of France. Emperor Frederick I Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire. Although the crusade regained some coastal cities like Acre, it failed to retake Jerusalem. The crusade ended in a truce with Saladin, allowing Christian pilgrims access to the Holy City, but Jerusalem remained under Muslim control. Why recovery was impossible. A. Loss of the strategic core. The Crusader states were built around Jerusalem, its fall shattered the central authority. Without Jerusalem, the remaining cities lacked cohesion or purpose. B. Coastal enclaves were unsustainable. Post-Hattin, Crusaders were reduced to a few isolated ports, Tyre, Tripoli, and Antioch. These cities depended on European support and naval supply lines, making them vulnerable to blockade or siege. c. Crusading zeal declined. The initial religious passion of the First Crusade faded over time. Later crusades became increasingly political, plagued by personal rivalries and a lack of unified vision. d. Rise of strong Muslim leadership. Saladin's victory inspired a new era of Muslim military and political consolidation. Even after his death in 1193, the Ayyubid dynasty and later the Mamluks kept the pressure on the Crusaders. Muslims now had the momentum and moral high ground. The fall of Acre and the end of the Crusader dream. A. Final collapse 1291. Acre, the Crusaders' last major stronghold, fell to the Mamluks in 1291. This marked the end of Latin Christian rule in the Holy Land. No serious attempt was made afterward to reclaim the territory. B. Legacy of Hattin. Hattin became symbolic of Christian overreach and Muslim resurgence. It marked the transition from offensive Crusader warfare to defensive survival. European focus shifted away from the Holy Land to internal affairs and wars, e.g., 100 Years' War. Historical significance. A. A turning point in the Crusades. Hattin is universally recognized as the turning point of the Crusades. It destroyed the illusion of Crusader invincibility and exposed the flaws in Crusader governance and diplomacy. B. Model of strategic warfare. Saladin's tactics, drawing out the enemy, controlling resources, and attacking at their weakest, are still studied in military history. It was not just a battle of swords, but of logistics, psychology, and leadership. C. Shaping East-West relations. The aftermath of Hattin deepened religious divisions between the Islamic world and Latin Christendom. The bitter memory of the Crusades continued to influence Christian-Muslim relations for centuries. Conclusion: why they never recovered. The Battle of Hattin was not merely a defeat, it was a decisive, irreversible collapse of Crusader power in the Holy Land. Its consequences rippled through history. It revealed fatal flaws in the Crusader system. It elevated Saladin as a symbol of unity and resistance. It transformed the nature of crusading from bold conquest to desperate defense.